Blog Talk Radio.
Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. Glad to be back in the Carolina Sports Plus studio. Glad to be here on this hump day. Didn't know if I was going to make it this hump day, this Wednesday. It has been a long week. Had an audit this morning. Worked 20 hours yesterday. Went and had to pick up some things for the store. Had to be back in at 2 o'clock this morning. Didn't get off as early as I wanted to. Still was able to get a nap in. Very exhausted. Very long week. But glad, as we have discussed, glad to be here. Glad to put everything on the back burner. This is our opportunity to kind of just shut out the world, do what we do, talk some sports, have a great time. Speaking of having a great time, talking about sports, let me get my co-host in here and let's get him on the mic. Mario, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. Glad to be in the Carolina Sports Plus studio talking some sports on this Wednesday.
Most definitely. Definitely will be picking your brain throughout the rest of this week when it comes to the career side of the field. So look for some messages this week. Ironically enough, before this last couple of days just kind of blew up with, long story short, for those that don't follow me or don't know much, really I'm tired of the theft. And last night, like I said, I spent 20 hours yesterday getting ready for audits, and theft's already out of control. People really don't care. And last night is a prime example. After me and the wife discussed, we got to figure it out. We got to do something. We need to make a leap. We need to change what we're doing. I bust my butt the way I do, and Mario can tell you quicker than anybody, especially that doesn't live in Ohio, how well I can bust my butt. And two guys come in and steal $600 worth of stuff just to put myself that much farther in a hole in an audit in a theft-ridden society. So it's getting to a point I don't know how much more I can take. And
what they steal?
They ended up stealing 7 cases of Red Bull off the display on the floor by the front door, and 2 cases of beer. 163 Red Bulls at $3.19 a piece. That's like $540 just there. A lot of people don't. And I don't think I've ever said this to Mario. Mario inspires me. Mario is somebody when it comes to the career world. There's a lot of things. This is just one specifically that I'm touching on. He's a family man, great with the kids. I go on and on. I've known Mario for a very long time, and Mario didn't know this was coming, and he didn't know I was going to be tooting his horn tonight. But he does inspire me. He is somebody that I do look up at, especially the career path and taking the chances, and seizing the opportunity. There's going to be some serious discussions coming up, Mario, and this week me and you are going to start some of those. So I can figure out. There's just been too much family time, too much personal time, too much health has been sacrificed for other people, and it needs to be. That's one thing that does inspire me. One of the things that inspire me about you is you do it for yourself. If you put your health at risk, or your time or family time is to build you and what you have and your family's dream and your family's future. All I'm doing is continuing to build someone else's dream and let them sit at home, and things are going to have to things are going to have to change. But anyway, speaking of which, since we did all that, let's know a little something about what you do, where you can be found, and the dream you are building.
Okay. You can catch us online at Carolina Sports Plus. We got a lot of good things going on, from topics to merchandise to fairs and festivals and news. You can catch merchandise at CarolinaSportsPlus.com. Our first event for kicking off the festival year of 2024 is coming up soon, and that's March 1st and 2nd in Lumberton. And right now we're currently building a mobile store. So I just got done from being outside messing with it, just because I know we had the show tonight. But that's what we got going on. You're more than welcome to give us a follow, a like, and we'll return the favor.
One, it's weird to hear festivals already. I guess living in North Carolina for 23 or 4 years or whatever it was, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary. March, all right, it's festival time, weather. But when you live in the great state of Ohio for the last 5 years and the first 18 years of your life and know what March is like in Ohio, it's weird to hear that we got festivals and stuff already coming up. We're right around the corner from that. So, insane differences. Mario, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
Did you know we had a new show debut on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network just like 3 nights ago?
3 nights ago, yeah. I saw it. I saw it on. On.
We had a show debut, and I wasn't saying just to point you out. I want to make sure everybody knows that there was a show that debuted on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network about 3 nights ago. To be more specific, Sunday nights, 8:30, right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Make sure you guys tune in to the Closers.
That's a good name.
Yes. It showed that they hit the big topics of the week, just like we do Sunday night show to close out the week. That's why they went with the Closers, was to kind of recap what just happened Monday through Saturday or earlier Sunday, and kind of close out the week and get you guys wrapped up for the week and get you guys off to the work week. It was funny because we did our show last week, and we got off the air, as we do every show, and kind of at some point, if it's right after the show or maybe early the next day, have a discussion about the show. And to be honest and to be fair, whether or not we have the conversation right after the show or the next day is usually based on me. And what I mean by that is because of my work schedule, sometimes, and I'm not going to say sometimes, as far as I can remember, 100% of the time, Mario will send me a message after about the show. Now, determine whether or not what my day's been like, work week's been like, and what I can work the next morning, whether or not I hear that message, I reply to that message. A lot of times I shut this thing down at 10 o'clock or 10:05, whenever time we get done. I turn the light, I put the laptop next to the bed or walk it over to the next to the bed, depending if area is cleaned off to do it over at the desk or not. I turn the light off and I roll and go to sleep. If I make it usually 5 minutes after the show, that is a task. But at some point, usually right after the show, we discuss how we thought the show went and what we could do or this, that, and the other. And I feel most of our shows kind of go somewhat similar. But I think last week, we had a little bit more of the conversation, us kicking back, and that was kind of what you pointed out. That we just weren't here spitting stats and facts.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation, but we were sprinkling in those stats and facts to kind of back what we were saying and the conversations we were having. But we were just having conversations. We were enjoying life, and when he said that, I was saying, that's exactly what this is supposed to be anyway to me. This is it's a podcast. We're not first things first, or the cow herd, or the herd, or first take, where we're just going to talk stats and facts the whole time and not really have much of a conversation. We're going to be very, they're very opinionated. A lot of them are, especially Nick Wright and Stephen A. Smith. But I love the flow we had last week. And when I listened to Sunday's show, I heard exactly the same thing that we did that Wednesday. Like, it was just a conversation. It was as a matter of fact, they had a couple people they had set up already that called in. Like, it was a constant, just rounds of conversations, just different. Like, it was conversation, and it was so easy listening. I messaged them and let them know. I was like, the only hard thing about these type of shows, and this is why I only did one short clip of our show to put out there, is because where we just conversate and we just kind of go with the wind, and there's really no change, and it's hard to title clips and make different clips, just like their show on Sunday. I only found one section that they talked about the AFC Championship. Then the rest of the show was hard to take certain clips and title it because they just kind of pretty to this, and they talked about that for a little bit. And then this, but it was just conversation. Like, it was, it wasn't like it was just points, bullet points where I could call this, Brett Purdy comes back and, got 5-10 minutes of, no, it's conversation like we do.
Yeah.
Like I told him, as difficult as it is to make short video clips for him for our video side, our YouTube channel, I loved their flow of the show. It was great conversation. It was easy conversation. It was easy to keep up with, and honestly, it made you want to participate. Like, if I would have been able to catch the show live, because I misunderstood them. And when I say 8:30 on Sunday nights, that's 8:30 Central. That's 9:30 Eastern time. I get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I really misdid the math and told them I would be there. Then I remember Central Time, and I did the Central Time backwards, and I thinking 7:30. I was thinking they were ahead for some reason, and then it clicked that they were an hour behind. So I had to message it back on my look. Yeah, there's going to be hardly any times I'm actually going to make the live show. And they go, stay until 9:30 at night is a task. Wednesdays, I got to take a nap in the afternoon in order to make it just to do 8 to 10. Not alone trying to stay up until 9:30 when the show begins, and then stay up for another hour and a half with y'all and get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, all is right, or getting at least to be all is right back here at the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. And what I mean by that is now we're back up to 3 out of the 5 shows back on the air. Sunday nights, you got the closers. You guys can catch that at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday night, Race Chat Live made their 2024 debut. Yes, they are back. I have not listened to last night's show yet. I will be. And theirs is a little bit easier, even though they have good conversation. They have a lot of bullet points. I love being able to break down videos of theirs. They stick to an agenda. They not so much free wing the conversation. They kind of stick to theirs, so it makes it easier to do the bullet points or do the videos. But great show. I'm glad to have them back. And, of course, we are here on Wednesday nights looking for safety success, making its return back early March as the local race season will get kicked underway for Jared. And then, of course, the exclusive as we work on Monday nights, adding some interviews in as Chris and myself will sit down with different athletes for about 20 minutes on a 30-minute show and just have a conversation and interview with different athletes. So things are coming back full swing around in the 2024 season. Looking forward to everybody being back and having the whole band back together. But things are starting to be right back here in the 110 Nation. So I'm glad to see that. Coming off championship weekend, Mario, I am all smiles. One, I think you were 0-2 and I was 2-0 this weekend. So I remember, I'm not keeping track or anything, but I think that's what just happened. But at the end of the day, as long as it was not Baltimore, that was all I was concerned about. I didn't care the other three teams. I don't care who wins, really honestly, who wins the Super Bowl at this point. I was just glad it was not Baltimore. Being a Browns fan and believing what I believe about Lamar Jackson, I want to take a big shout out to Lamar Jackson. Thank you, Lamar Jackson, for doing Lamar things, making Lamar passes. You made me look 100% accurate, like I knew what the hell I was talking about. Just throwing balls everywhere except to their own players. Hell, he haven't had to catch his own pass because he wasn't throwing it nowhere close to his players. Championship. I didn't catch the second game. We'll talk a little bit about the first game, and I'm going to let you give your thoughts on the Kansas City-Baltimore, and then we'll talk about San Francisco. I'm not sure if you watched it. I did catch highlights of it. The Kansas City-Baltimore game.
Uh-huh.
I knew this was going to happen as soon as the game was ended. That's the refs this, and the refs that, and the refs this, and the refs that. And Taylor Swift this, and Taylor Swift that, and the refs this, and the refs that. This is what I'm going to say. Now, I even replied this into a comment somewhere where there's someone made a meme and someone the one where Taylor Swift's whispering into Kelsey's ear or Kel's ear and saying, "I paid the refs." And I replied to that person's comment, and I said, and does that mean she also paid Lamar Jackson because he played exactly what I called with those horrible passes and those interceptions? Did he pay did she pay off the players and the lack of discipline and the calls, the unsportsmanlike calls, like the taunting call? And I know. I think there was an NFL player that chimed in on it, talking about it being weak or something. I don't care your opinion of the taunting call. It was a taunting call. You can't get up, look down on a player, spin the ball, and everything else. You can't do that. Yeah. I think most of the time the taunting stuff is stupid anyway. Like you were down, and I think they were down by 10 points at that point. You made a catch. Why are you even focused on taunting and everything else? Why don't you focus on even or at least making it a one-score game at this point instead of worrying about and let me guess, the ref and Taylor Swift also paid off the refs to make Flowers fumbled at the 1-yard line. Or I'm just watching Lamar Jackson throw it into triple coverage and interception in the end zone. There's a lot of things that went wrong with this weekend that had nothing to do with one or two bad calls. I think that there might have been a couple bad calls. You have a couple bad calls every game. I am a firm believer, Mario. You do the things you're supposed to do. You can control what you can control. And a call or two would make a difference. So, in other words, if Flowers doesn't get that taunting call, doesn't fumble the ball at the 1-yard line, Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the interceptions, he doesn't fumble the football, he's accurate instead of barely making 50% of his passes, that one or two bad calls would have made a difference. But because you allowed all those other things to happen, then it amplifies a bad call or two bad calls. And I don't think any of the calls were just so, obvious, oh, my God, a blind man could have got that right. I think those couple, what we'll call bad calls, are opinionated points of view. Well, that's against my team. I don't like it. It's a bad call. You have never heard me say, well, the Browns lost it because of this call, or the Buckeyes lost because of that call. Even with that hit on Harrison Jr., that call ended up costing, I think eventually cost us the Georgia game and the championship. I didn't blame it on, well, the refs didn't get that call right. That's why Ohio State. No, if we didn't go in counting on one receiver to bail us out and beat Georgia that year, it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But if we would have took care of everything else, then losing Harrison to concussion or whatever wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Your thoughts on the Kansas City-Baltimore game?
I was on the leaning factor of wanting to see Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't say shut haters up, but I wanted to see him do something. As the game went on, you can tell sometimes the situation is just a little bit too much. If it's for a player or a team or the offensive coordinator, I just didn't see why they call so many passing plays to start off with. You know what I mean? But if you compare Lamar Jackson's regular season to the playoffs, since he's been in the league, there is a big difference. You know what I mean? From his passing percentage to his overall passing rating to his overall even stats from yards per throw. You know what I mean? During the regular season, close to I think it was 8. Regular season, 6. But something's wrong. You know what I mean? It's all good to talk. I want to do it. We're going to do it. But once it's time to get on the field and crunch time, he just don't show up. You know what I mean? And I'm not the type of person that's trying to get on a black running quarterback. You get what I'm saying? But at the same token, it is what it is. You get what I'm saying? That's what kind of makes it hard.
It's funny because when you say haters, first I can think of, that feels a little directed towards somebody here at this in the studio here.
No, I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying in general. You know what I mean?
I am a hater. I'm a hater. Yeah. I feel more. And I was sitting there thinking as you're having this conversation and the success in the regular season, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Lamar might end up being one of the most decorated non-playoff or bowl or Super Bowl winning. You figure now he's got the Heisman Trophy and 2 MVPs. And has done really nothing outside of had some good regular seasons as a team. Now, where we lie and how you feel as a quarterback, that's very objective, and that's from person to person. I think that I don't know. The arm's not accurate enough to me. I think this is it. This is the best as it gets. And if you can find a way to build a team around and use his strengths and then be able to mask or do other things for his weaknesses, in other words, having an arm consistent, accurate all the time. He has his games. I ain't never said he ain't never had a hell of a game or put up a performance. He's had 3-4 touchdown games, 300 yards, and has had a good percentage. They're just few and far and in between. And so it's hard to win a Super Bowl or go deep in the playoffs when you don't have an accurate quarterback. A quarterback, you can fall on that arm consistent. And so I don't know. I don't know. San Francisco and the Lions. Did you get an opportunity to watch that game?
Yeah, I watched that whole game.
Tales of two halves, huh?
Yeah, tales of two halves. Tales of two halves, and a cocky coach.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was going to be one of the things I wanted to have a conversation about. And I've heard this a lot. And is it really cockiness? And I'm going to assume that you're referring to the fourth quarter, or the fourth, going forward on the fourth downs. Is that what you're referring to in the cockiness there?
I'm talking about on both.
Not taking that kick.
I'm talking about both. Yeah, I'm talking about both possessions. Even the possession before then in the third quarter, when the 49ers kicked the field goal, and then the Lions came all the way back, and they got the field goal range to go up 17 again, to go up 3 more possessions again, and then failed, and then the 49ers come back and score. You get what I'm saying? But then during halftime, during the fourth quarter, there's no way that I'm not going to tie up the ball game. You get what I'm saying? To go get a touchdown, and I can tie the game up. You know what I mean? And lean on my defense.
Let's say Steph Curry, probably the greatest three-pointer shooter to ever go down, has an opportunity to take a 20-foot jumper to tie the game. Yeah, you have a 50-50, I don't know, 50-50 shot or whatever. Kind of the situation in the field goal that he didn't go for at one point of the game, and they went ahead and went for it, and they didn't get it, and so they didn't able to close the gap a little bit. Or let's say Steph Curry knows there's a sweet spot, three-point land, that he is 85% for the season, and he takes that instead, like he's done all season, 85% of the time. It was like 18 of 20. Well, that would be 80%, be not 85. So 17 to 20 times, I think that's what the number was. And nobody thinks twice about it. Same thing with Coach.
Yeah, I understand where you're going. You know what I mean? I understand that part, right? Steph Curry and the Warriors, they got that right because they're 3-time, 4-time champions, three MVPs, and they've been there before. But as far as the Lions, there's no way that you're supposed to not kick that field goal at least to tie up the ball game. There's no reason why I want to kick a field goal to go back up 17 points.
You're in the AFC, or you're in the NFC Championship game. I think something you've only done one other time. I think they said, I think it was 91 or something. Never been to the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, Dan Campbell was on that 0-16 team, if I remember correctly, of Detroit.
Yeah.
So you did the exact same thing, what he did. Did the exact same thing he's done all season long.
But
it's been 85%.
I agree. I understand.
But that's what got him. My whole point is that's what got him here, though.
Yeah. But that's what got him. Yes, I understand. There's a time to gamble and there's a time not to gamble. I understand it got him there. You know what I mean? I respect the whole, you know what I mean? I'm a good coach and I'm going to go for it. But you got to think about the opportunity. You get what I'm saying? To go up 17 points, to go to the Super Bowl after my opponent just kicked 3 and I get in there, I'm going to kick 3 back. To tie up a ball game, with still 7 minutes left in the game and you still got a defense that can hold. It just you know, I understand, you know what I mean, they did it all year, it's part of his DNA, but I think he just got too much into it. You know what I mean? That's in my opinion. But I feel where you're coming from. I totally understand, but it's just,
I understand your
different.
opinion, and seeing it happen, I can absolutely 100% agree with your opinion. But in the moment, knowing that 85, I mean, that's a pretty solid number. And it's not like out of 5 times, like you're talking 20 or 21 times that he's done this. He's went for it on 4th and whatever. Most in the league, and converted most in the league this year. And it's like, it was 85% success rate. I don't necessarily hate the call. I don't hate the decision.
Cool.
Like, you lived or died this entire season on that 85% being right. That's like, I feel you running your business and you doing something this entire time I have known you building this business, and you've been damn near 90% right every time on what you've done. Like what you've done is brought almost 90% success, and you've been able to do this. And then all of a sudden, all right, do I do this, or do I know what has been successful almost every single time? I don't know. And like I said, it's easy for us to sit here, afterwards and say, well, he should have done this. That's like we had the same conversation about the Boston coach last year, and not using the timeouts and the things that he did. Well, yeah, it's easy to look back like, why didn't he not call that timeout? And even though they had a play already designed and they had plenty of time, it wasn't his fault that, I think it was Marcus Smart or Jason Taylor. I think it was Marcus Smart that shot that ball like a half a second too late and causing the game in the playoffs last year. Kind of the same boat with this. Like, it's easy to look back. Well, you should have done this. You should have done that. But the moment, it's like, okay, 85% of the time this year on a big number, not a big sample size, not some small sample size, we have been successful. We have done this. Maybe the call wasn't the best call, especially so Jared Goff had a pass. It was a horrible pass. It wasn't even catchable, or the offense kind of didn't do their part and didn't give him the protection it needed.
A lot of drop passes.
Yeah,
I understand that because one of the fourth downs, if Reynolds would have caught the if he would have caught the ball, you know what I mean, and it was right there.
You can say damn.
They had plenty. They had plenty of opportunities. I'm not just saying the game came down just like any referee calls. A game don't come down to one play. You know what I mean? But they had their opportunity. They had the fumble. They had the fumble in the third quarter after the 49ers scored 7 points, and they gave the ball right back. You know what I mean? So I understand it's more than one play because they really did lose the game with the fumbles and the drop passes and not going for field goals. But it just looks bad. You know what I mean? For it to be the final game of the year after getting that far after all these years. You know what I mean? I was rooting for them.
I'm not gonna say I necessarily rooted against them, but I also had said that I out of the four teams, I wanted to see the 49ers more so. That one of my best friends, very good friend of mine, is a 49ers fan. So that's kind of why I was leaning in that direction. I also kind of wanted to see how Brad Purdy would hold up, which saw a stat second half. First quarterback to ever, it was like 150-plus yards, something like 45-plus rushing yards, average of 10 yards rush or something, no interceptions, 80% completing in the history of the Super Bowl era of football, like what Brock Purdy did. The second half was like lights out, phenomenal. I guess we could talk about Super Bowl predictions next week, so we got a whole week to sit here and think about stuff and talk about stuff. The hate for Kansas City. There was already this kind of hatred building up. I think this whole Taylor Swift thing, I think we're going to get to a point that I think people might actually hate the Kansas City Chiefs more than they hate the New England Patriots. And I didn't think we'd ever see a team in my lifetime that would be more hated by the NFL community than the Patriots. And Kansas City, I feel, is getting, especially with this whole Taylor Swift thing, which it was kind of funny. Someone threw out a shot earlier talking about that Taylor Swift managed to make it to the Super Bowl before Dak Prescott. I thought that was funny. But with all this going on, I think we could possibly see a team hated more than the New England Patriots. I don't know. I see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lord
I think it's even like I think the hatred part, you know what I mean? Not saying people get sick of seeing winners, you know what I mean? But that's basically when it starts coming down to, you know what I mean? Anytime you see a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes 4 times in the last 5 years, you know, and stats of that nature, some people want to see different players, or some people want to see the same players and want to see how great they can be while they're playing football, you know. But that's where a lot of hate comes in at, to me, anyway.
The only time that bothers me, I guess once you get to the Super Bowl, it can be bothersome because you only got one game to watch. And I guess I don't even let the Super Bowl bother me because there's so much going on with the Super Bowl, the commercials, the whole everything around it. You got to figure in my total lifetime, I have never had a dog in the fight. So I guess it's a little bit easier for me never having the opportunity to have a dog in the fight in the Super Bowl ever. You just kind of get used to just being part. I've gotten into to this point in my life where as long as it's a close competitive game, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Now there's certain teams. I'm gonna backtrack just a second because there are certain teams that yes, I do care. I don't want to see them win. It's not that I necessarily got tired of watching one team win or necessarily want to see one team win so much more than another team because I like them or something. But there are certain teams out there I just don't want to see win it. If it ever or that particular year, whatever the case may be, Baltimore would be one that I never want to see being a Browns fan. But as long as it's competitive, good Super Bowl, that's all I really care or really ask for. There's nothing worse than I think it was one year was with the Colts in Seattle. There was a 55-8 game or something horrible to watch. There's nothing worse. I can even remember the first Super Bowl I actually remember watching. It was the Bears, the 85 Bears against New England. It was a lopsided game. And there's been many in between. There's just ones that stick out. As long as it's a competitive game and a close game, most years I could really care less. The only sport that it really bothers me in is racing, NASCAR. Growing up real little, I was a Bill Elliott fan, but as I got older, I started following Jeff Gordon in his Busch Grand National days back when it was a good Busch Grand National. Became a fan of his, was a fan of his in NASCAR. Got tired and watched win all the time. Hell, it was 1 year he won 13 out of the 33 races. Well, there's only one race to watch. I don't want to watch one person dominate it. I became a Jimmy Johnson fan after that because I got tired of watching Gordon win all the time. Then Jimmy Johnson turn around and wins all the time and wins 7 championships. Well, it gets just as old to watch the same person win all the time. The rest of the sports, it doesn't bother me so much. So, like the year that the Patriots made that 18-1 run, it bothered me they won undefeated. It was kind of cool to watch. But I also had, 15 other games to watch. It wasn't the only game that I was stuck watching every weekend, and there was nothing else to watch sports-wise or football-wise. I don't know. I just don't. I don't have the hatred for the Chiefs, but I don't have the hatred for the Patriots either.
Yeah, well, even like teams like that, you know, you got to respect the whole process that comes along with the Super Bowl trips. You know what I mean? From knowing who to draft, who to bring in, who's a good fit. You know what I mean? It's not like Kansas City was bought. You get what I'm saying? Where they just paid a whole bunch of veterans to come in, and you know what I mean? That team is really, ever since they drafted Patrick Mahomes and built around him, and that was what their thing was. They built a good defensive line, so they really built. They're very well built.
There was legitimate conversation this year alone whether or not they were even going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially at that point in time where you had that offensive offsides by the receiver, and it seemed at that particular moment in time like things were such a confusing mess. You had receivers dropping the balls all the time, bad penalties, like things weren't there, and it was legitimate conversation of whether or not we felt that the Chiefs were even going to make the playoffs. And here we are with them back in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm never going to sit there and cheer on Patrick Mahomes or anything else. Just like I'm not going to say I was a Patriots fan, but I never cheered on Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. I just never would bet against them. Just like we got to a point in my life now, I don't know if I'd ever bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Reid. They have proven in the last 5 years that that's not a good bet to make. It's one of those things, kind of goes back to the Dan Campbell when, 85% is right over the last 5 years. I'm sorry, but this year I'm not going to say all of a sudden, you know what? I'm going to bet against the Chiefs. 85% of the time I was right. I'm just throwing that in there.
Yeah.
I had to throw another 85% number. But it blows my mind, though, just like with Tom Brady, this whole Travis. I think one, I think it's hysterical to me that grown men melt down about this, about the whole Taylor Swift. They act like instead of the cameras watching the game, that we could hear Tony Romo in the background telling us play-by-play while the video cameras are just directed on Taylor Swift the entire time. That's not what happens. Like, airtime, I guarantee no more than 3 minutes in total airtime that you have Taylor Swift on a 4-hour TV coverage of a football game. These people make it seem like we are essentially watching a Taylor Swift concert with football play-by-play in the background going on. That's not what's going on. So grown men to have meltdowns about the maybe, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, 5 minutes out of almost 4 hours of TV time, 3.5 hours, and melting down over that for two people that I don't necessarily agree with all their personal life choices, and more so the, like Kelsey and the promoting of the COVID vaccine shots, and that's how he's making his money right now. That's just personal opinions on it. I don't have nothing against them. I'm just not big. Don't sit there and push something that just so you can make a buck off of it. But also the Taylor Swift and her political views and everything else, I could really care less. I treat her no different than I treat LeBron or anybody else. I really don't care about your political agendas and what side you're on and what you feel like. I tune into you because I like your music, or I like watching you play, or whoever it is, not because hey, you like this person or you feel about this way on this political. I don't. That's not. I didn't turn on Bloomberg TV or Fox or NBC or CNN or whatever everybody chooses to watch, what your political views were. I turn on a football game, or I watched your concert, or whatever the case may be. That's all I really care. That's what you are. You're an athlete, you're an artist, or whatever. That's what you get paid. That's what I'm tuning in for, not for your 2 cents that you want to throw in at the end of the day, because I don't care about that part of it. But it just blows my mind. Like, there are toxic people out there that people kind of migrate around and people don't care. But then you got good, genuine people that do good things and just happen to fall in love and have a good life and do good things, and people just like, it's the end of the world. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
It's good for business, though.
So, yeah, they said something like that. She has helped build the NFL brand like $331 million worth this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. I don't get it. Like that. Yeah, I understand that these people don't turn it on to hear to see the whole maybe 5 minutes of Taylor Swift. I understand it's not some people's music, either genre she's been in. She doesn't just do one genre. There's a top 40 album of side of her, and then there's a country side of her. But as some of the stupid things they focus on, that's like this whole Detroit run. Like, so why are people not upset that there was so much TV time about Eminem? Like, he doesn't play football. He has nothing to do with the Detroit Lions. Like, what triggers people sometimes is how they pick and choose what triggers them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's another one. I'm a big Eminem fan. As the years got older and he started getting more political, and it's not what I listen to. That's not why in the late 90s and early 2000s why everybody had to have Eminem CDs and everybody knew every Eminem song, and you turned on the TV and the MTV Awards and the BET Awards because you wanted to not only hear what, who he was beefing with, because that was part of his whole package, but you wanted to see what he did up on the stage. You wanted to hear the newest song to come out. And, at one point in time, it seemed like every time you turn around, there was another 20, 30 songs that Eminem come out. So, you tuned in for all that. I don't know. It blows my mind what triggers NFL fans. And I don't know, I just see in the social media, and I think that's what's going to set the Chiefs over the Patriots over the top on most hated team. I kind of sit back and get a chuckle with it. I think it's hilarious that people are so disturbed and so bothered by that maybe 5 minutes of Taylor Swift talk or the few glimpses up in the booth, because they act like that's the only person. Nobody erupts. Well, I'm not going to say that, because there's a lot of anti-LeBron people, because anytime LeBron's at a game, they score the team he's playing for, they show him as well. It's not like Taylor Swift's the only person that they go to and show the press box at people at the games or, different things. So, I don't know, it's so it's entertaining to me. I never thought we'd be living in a day when we're discussing the Super Bowl, and we got to have a whole segment discussing football fans and the meltdowns over an artist that's not even playing the game, but just attends games. So, but yeah, what she has done for the game and the merchandise. And, that Kelsey jackets and all these different things. Like, I see, and it's funny because as much, I thought about this. I never thought about this before. As much as grown men complain and are upset that my wife, she just won't let me watch football, or she just can't get into it, or she gets upset because it's Sunday football. But you have someone like Taylor Swift that has helped bring females into the sport and want to watch the sports. Like, you can't have it both ways, because now you're upset because there's a Taylor Swift, but you get to watch football with your wife. She's actually taking an interest, or your girl. But last season you were upset because you had to be nagged at because you didn't go cut the lawn because the football game was on. Now she wants to sit there with you because she's a Taylor Swift fan, and so she's got drawn into it. So you're complaining about the reason that more women or complaining less about football and watching it with you, even though it took a female to do it, that you're upset that did it. Like, oh, Lord have mercy. We had a lot of big scores in the NBA this last weekend.
Oh, yeah, sure has. What you think, since we're talking about NBA, what you think about Joel Embiid and what's going on with him missing games, that 65 game minimum they got to play to get all pro or MVP?
I am a big fan of that. I think that we have had too many players sitting out. We have too many. What the issue? Well, there's a couple issues. One, the NBA season is a long. I say a long season, not that the NFL is a short season. You figure the NFL's just regular season, 17 weeks long, so that's already 4 months itself. But you only got one game a week that you got to keep up with. The NBA, so the NFL, you're keeping up with 17 games across this 4-month stretch. The NBA, there's 82 games. So it's already long. Then when you start talking about, load management, so out of those 82 games that you're trying to keep up with in a long season, now you're looking at 25-ish or so. A lot of times of those games, your stars are not playing. So what is already a long season, a lot of meaningless games in the middle there, are even more meaningless because now nobody's playing and you have nobody to really watch. It's one thing to watch, say you're a Laker fan. It's one thing to sit there and watch the Lakers lose with LeBron on. At least you thought you had an opportunity, but then you start benching LeBron and you start benching Anthony Davis due to load management and injuries. Now the game, what's the point? Because they might steal a game here or there, but they're not taking a lot of games, especially with both of them down. And we used to watch that with we got to the point we started watching that with San Antonio. I remember that year that San Antonio got fined $250,000 when Miami came. I think it was when LeBron was still with Miami, and Spurs. It was I think the Spurs, that went ahead and benched their people, and they load manage. I like the rule. I think the NBA. I think the NBA needs to make some more adjustments. I think maybe reduce the season some. I think 82 games might be. I mean, that's a lot of games in a long stretch. I wouldn't have an issue with them bringing it down 10, 15 games, 65, 70 games maybe at most, and then still have a percentage. Like, you still got to play. I would rather them have a 65-game season and then be required to play at least 50, 55 games than you play 82 games and there'd be no stipulation or the stipulation they got. There's still a lot of games you're still missing, and it's still a long season for them. I don't know. I just feel that the NBA is kind of in a spot, but I say that all, and then I sit there thinking about Major League Baseball, who plays 100-some-odd games. But I hold. I don't know what's your thoughts of it. I kind of hold MLB a little bit different. And what I mean by that, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big baseball fan. When I had the Indians, I was an Indians fan. I don't have a Major League Baseball team because I don't have the Indians no more. But we do partial season. I get to go to at least 11 games a year of the Dayton Dragons. They are the high A class of the Cincinnati Reds. Even though I hate the Reds, the Dayton Dragons are literally 5 minutes up the road. Great facility, cheap, fun. Get to watch the up-and-coming stars. I got to watch De La Cruz 2 years before he even came out, so I was already ahead of the curve when he became this big deal this last year. And I even played baseball growing up. I played t-ball, then baseball. But baseball is a little bit different to me because you spend half the game sitting on the bench. Like, when your team's up to bat, you're sitting there. So you spend half your game for literally sitting there. And then the other half of the game, depending on your position, how much effort and running around you got to do. Not that these people are not athletes, not that these people are not physical, not that these players are not, physical throughout the game. But to me, it takes, I'm not going to say less physicality, but it's not as enduringly strenuous throughout the season, I guess is the best way to put it, because you get so much downtime per game versus the NBA. You're up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down the court. The NFL, you're up and down, and still, even with NFL playing offense, defense, there's a lot of you're on the field, off the field, but there's more physicality to it, so it wears a different way anyway. You're not blocking each other, tackling each other, whatever in Major League Baseball. So even though the baseball season is longer, to me, it's not as physically demanding of 162 games versus it being physically demanded maybe 82 games in the NBA. But back to your original point, I don't know why I got all sidetracked. I like the rule. I think that we got to a point, or the NBA got to a point, that there was too many players taking too many games off, then got rewarded for how they played in the little bit of the small sample size. That 85% looks better when it's a big sample size, like the 20 times or so versus 5 times. I'm going to have that 85% thing where it was just going to have to be a thing for a while. I think people just got fed up. I think the commissioner got fed up that you just had too many players that were trying to coast, and it's rough. There's too many. It looks like too many players don't care, and you've got to have a reason to make the NBA look like they care in order for the fans to want to care, for the fans to want to come, or the fans want to tune these games in. If you're in game 30 through 40 or game 30 through 50, and it looks like your stars, your Steph Currys, your Draymond Greens, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, the list goes on, your Giannis, your Lukas, don't care, like they're forced to be there, they're on the bench half the games, then you're going to have fans that are not going to want to be there. They're not going to want to be season ticket holders. They're not going to want to pay these overpriced prices for these seats, these courtside seats, and these $20, $30, $40 beers and $20 hot dogs. You got to have a reason to make sure that your stars are on the court in order to make sure your fans want to be there in attendance or helping your TV ratings for your better package deals and TV deals and all that stuff.
I agree. I was talking. Not going back to what we said earlier, but I was telling a friend of mine, about the show that we got going on and how it's more like a chill homeboy type of sports talk show. But I told him we're the same. We're different, but we're the same. But it goes good just because we are different. You get what I'm saying? We are different, and our thoughts here. But I agree. And I just found out Joe Dumars is the one who came up with the idea. And once you think about Joe Dumars having some type of influence on this type of rule, it fits him. You get what I'm saying? Just because if you go back through his track history, how many games he played. Back in them days, they was playing 72 games a year. 82 games. They got John Stockton played 12 plus years playing all 82 games. Do you know how hard that is? That's a hard thing to do. You know what I mean? But I also agree. It's really messing up the bottom line because 2 people going to a game, 3 people going to a game, that's $1,000 right there. From parking, tickets being $300, and hopefully you still be at the bottom for $300. You know what I mean? But I understand. We're on the same page here. I think it is good. There is there's some players. From Hillenburton from Indiana. He's missing a lot of games, and if if he makes All-Pro. If he doesn't make All-Pro, then he misses out on like $54 million. So there's a couple instances about players, but I just wanted to bring that one up. But I agree, it really is a good rule, and at least fans have a good thought that you're gonna be at the game as far as a superstar, because that's who they came to see.
And me personally, it's like, I'll use the NFL for example. Week 17, we had no. It would be week 18 since we played. Yes, week 18 we played Cincinnati this year.
Yeah.
We didn't start anyway. There was no purpose. We couldn't gain nothing. We couldn't lose nothing. No nothing. There was no point of us playing any of our starters. I didn't watch that game.
Yeah.
I typically, when it comes to preseason, I will try to catch that one drive. And usually what happens is I'll go back because I DVR. I think everybody DVRs, but I DVR my game, the Browns games. And I will fast forward through that one drive or that one quarter that my starters of my team play, and that's all I'm watching.
Yeah.
And so I already know as an NFL fan what I'm willing to watch, not watch with my starters on the field. So I wouldn't expect any different from, and I'm the same way with the NBA. I just say, in reference to other NBA fans, I can't imagine NBA fans being any different than I am about the NFL or any of my teams. Like when I was a Cleveland Cavalier, well, I am a Cleveland Cavalier, but when LeBron James was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I knew he was going to be on the court, or when him and Kyrie Irving was playing, and him and Kevin Love, of course, I was all in. I'd watch all the games, even from North Carolina, because they played them all the time, because it was one of the top teams. But if they weren't playing, if I knew they were load managing, I wasn't going to bother. Why? I don't care. If they don't care enough, and it's a game they know that they can throw away and they're not worried about it affecting their playoff outcome, then why do I need to bother with my time? If it's not worth their time, why is it worth my time? Why do I need to watch the bench that come playoffs were outside of injury, except for the 1 year when Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving went down and LeBron was trying to carry the bench and everybody else with them against Golden State. Outside of that, you're not going to see players, and if those players are playing in the playoffs, then you're probably not winning the playoffs anyway. So I don't know. I've never been a fan of the whole load management thing. I guess the other issue is with it is I get up, as much as I don't feel good, as much as, I almost had the wife take me to the ER Friday because of this work schedule, because of the way I got to work. In order to make things happen, in order to make my sales, make the labor and everything else. It came down to Friday evening, like I couldn't taste anything. I couldn't smell anything. I took the first time I voluntarily in this whole quote unquote pandemic era that we've been in, so pretty much since the beginning of 2020. It's the first time I ever voluntarily took a COVID test. Now, it came back negative, and as Saturday and Sunday rolled in, I could start smelling my coffee. I could start smelling different things. I could start tasting things. But it got to a point, and there's still a few things that have not completely recovered, which really why this conversation with me and the wife that things got to change, because I didn't fully recover a couple different things from last week. And here we are. To be honest with you, I clocked out today at 55 hours. I'm not allowed to, 54 point some odd hours. I'm not allowed to exceed 55 hours. So I have two choices for tomorrow, because tomorrow's the last day of the pay week. Either I don't go to work and there is no manager and there's nothing done tomorrow and possibly fired. I go to work and clock in tomorrow and possibly get fired for essentially have 15 hours of overtime. on top, because I am an hourly manager with Circle K. You are hourly, so I still get, I'm supposed to work 50 hours. That's part of what makes your paycheck what it is 10 hours are paid of overtime every week for you. And so I'm allowed up to 15 hours. I'm allowed up to 55 hours. And so another 15 hours on top of that would be, especially when the VP and all the way down the chain has put out emails the last week and a half, because for some reason, while the VP and everybody was out of the country on their ambassador trips that I've gotten to go on, so I'm not holding it against them, because I've been part of the ambassador trips, greatest week of my life, out of the country, all paid for. You had many managers decide they were just going to do whatever they want and blow labor, like 30 hours of overtime here and 40 hours of overtime there for people. So I'm going to have to work tomorrow for free in order to make this all work, which I did a lot in North Carolina when I ran that small store, so it's not something out of the ordinary. But it's more of the physicality part of it. It's more of what I know my body said last week, and I'm afraid what my body's going to say by the end of this week. But I still come to work every day. I don't miss a beat. I do what I got to do, and that's every day. It's not 2 games out of the week or 3 games out of the week or whatever. It's 5, maybe 6 days out of the week, depending on my work week. Don't miss a day of. Literally, I think the only 2 times that I actually had a call-out miss, I woke up in the hospital because of a heart situation, and then I actually pulled something in my back and literally could not get out of my bed for a week. Like, had to pee in water bottles, could not get out of the bed, had to low crawl down the hallway, down the stairs, and be carried to the car, to the ER, so they can give me steroid shots, pain shots, and everything else. And it still took a few days before I could actually physically walk. I just couldn't, I don't know, for someone that's been the mentality, and you knew me in North Carolina, you knew that I had not only was I running a Circle K in North Carolina, I was up in Brooklyn on the weekends, all weekend long, slapping out dough, making pizzas, and then you got multi-million-dollar millionaires that make all this money to play a sport a couple of days a week, that have paid physicians that help, one, make sure your nutrition's in line, you're eating right, you're hydrated right, but also massage. If I made that type of money, and where I could get the massages and the physical therapies and everything else, and someone to basically meal prep everything to make sure that I am able to perform at optimal levels, I don't think I would ever care how many hours in a week that how many days I had to work and what I felt like by Friday. Because I wouldn't feel like I did last Friday if I had someone, helping me recover with everything. So I don't know. I just couldn't imagine that. Oh, I got to work 3 days this week. I got to go play a basketball. I got to go do the same thing that high school and college kids do every day for free, or what? Now you got the NIL deals, but since I don't feel like it, I make millions and I have somebody help take care of my body and I'm in tip-top shape and I just play a sport for a living. I only want to do it once this week. I don't want to do it twice. I'm going to take it. I couldn't imagine that. So I don't know. I guess to each is his own on that one. I don't know. A lot of high-scoring games, though. Lack of defense? Or do you think lack of defense?
Man, they don't be playing on defense, man. They just, it's kind of like, sometimes you may.
The NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, it's like, it's really like you just go into a very good rec game, like an AAU game. You know what I mean? A lot of games playing, but just a lot of shooting and running. You know what I mean? A lot of shooting and running. No defense being played. No defense. It makes it.
You got.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, because we're talking about the basketball. Did you hear me say, for those that don't know, I think we announced last week that you got approved to do the Carolina.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
And then, And then since the last show, we haven't discussed this. You also got approved to do Carolina Hurricane game, didn't you?
Yep. I got.
Have you ever done it? You ever been to an NHL game?
No. Yeah, I've been to one, but I was in. I think I went one time. I wasn't high. I was like in the middle, but not nothing live down there in action. You know what I mean? It really is exciting. I don't really like. There ain't too many people you can talk about it because some people you talk about it too. It feels like you know what I mean. I don't want to say I'm rubbing it in. I'm not. I'm just talking about something big that I haven't done before that you actually see people do it on TV. You get what I'm saying? So it is kind of exciting where I can go to the UNC game 90 minutes before the game starts. You understand what I'm saying? To ask post-game questions.
Take it from me. Brag all the freak you want to brag. Just take it in. For those that don't know, if they missed last week's show, Mario got approved. He is doing media for the UNC Virginia Tech game coming up in February. He's also been approved to do a Carolina game, Hurricanes for the NHL. He's also put in for credentials to do media for the first round of the NCAA tournament. For those that have never had that experience, and kind of a little bit of a backstory since we're just conversating and talking anyway, I didn't know about media credentials. A little backstory before we jump into that. When I did this, I had no idea what I was even getting into. Like, I had just switched jobs. The guy I had worked for was a racist prick. He didn't like the fact that pretty much essentially I had an all-black clientele as his customer base with an all-black staff. And it was in the shopping center was pretty much, Utah shopping centers was pretty predominantly a black shopping center as well. You've been to Utah shopping center with Limbs and Foot Locker and all that. Like, it is what it is. And Mario knows just as well, or more than probably almost anybody that I talk to or know. I could care less who you are. Like, I had this conversation with the police department this morning when we was talking about theft and everything. People didn't steal from Jason's store. 99% of the time, if I showed you a picture in the town that we both lived in and said, look, so-and-so stole, this person, within an hour, somebody be back with something, either money or product. You just didn't steal from Jason. I said, right now I can call the head of the Spring Lake Police Department. I said, and talk to her. I said, and I can call the biggest drug dealer in town. And I was friends with everybody. I don't care. But he ended up terminating because he just didn't like that clientele. He ended up moving the store over on Ramsey Street where it was more of his clientele that he wanted and everything else. Well, in doing so, I was trying to supplement the incomes. I took a hit switching jobs, and I signed up for, I didn't know what I was signing up for, and ended up being, once you got done, you spent all this money to end up spending money, this, that, and the other, you find out just to basically to blog. And so at first when I started doing it, I was more of a street reporter. That's why I liked what you commented about us having conversation, because I wasn't, we're doing more of what the podcast was versus just being, basically a sports center. And so I started doing that, and someone's like, look, a blog is your opinion on things. Like, you're just being a street reporter. Start writing stuff with your opinion in it. And then someone said something about a podcast. This is when podcasts were brand new. It's kind of one of the reasons I shoot myself in the foot 12 years ago. We was part of the front of this curve, and it could have been a really big deal. Like, we were really racking in numbers and everything else because we were ahead of the game, and then just inconsistency in life and everything. But I had to learn what a podcast even was. Well, I had this girl that was working for me at the job that I had went to, and she said, look, got this stuff going on. How about we go do some media? Let's go do some events. They'll let you go for free. And she was one of those ladies that there was truth in things she said, but there was also false, made up, exaggerated stories and things she said. So you kind of pick and choose what you believed and didn't believe coming out of her mouth. And she's like, here, blah, blah, blah. She signed us up, and the first 2 races we went to was Atlanta and Bristol. And I think we went to Bristol first. And I took money with me. Like, I still didn't believe her. I was like, look, if I'm going to drive to Bristol, I'm going to make sure I have money, because if we can't get in, and like, if this is all a whole dream, then I'm buying tickets and we're going to this race. And the same thing with Atlanta, even the following week, because like, I had scheduled everything and got everything done so I could go to the Bristol weekend. So my schedule was supposed to be back heavy on the next weekend, because I wasn't planning on going anywhere. And like Wednesday, we got approved all of a sudden to go to a race in Atlanta. And so now I'm scrambling around to change everything so I could go to Atlanta, and I still took money that time. And then from there, it went, I promise you that I have probably done races. I've probably done 50 or so different NASCAR races, and through all 3 series. I've had interviews with the first year when NASCAR did their, they changed the format, went to the Chase. I got to go to the Hall of Fame for free in Charlotte, and I got an opportunity to interview everybody in the round of 12. They had a little station set up, and everybody just kind of rotated and asked questions. I have gotten to go to exclusive there's I think it's called Bear Creek. It's outside of Charlotte. What would happen is you had All-Star Weekend, and then usually the next weekend followed up with the 600. Well, that week in between, a lot of the local drivers would go to this little track. And I say little, it looks like the World of Outlaw cars, but they're go-kart versions of them. Like, these are real small, basically World of Outlaw cars. And I got an exclusive invite out there, and I got to, for media. Now, the locals out there know about this track. It's kind of, you go down what looks like this little dirt road, and in between these cornfields, and like, it's like you're going back into the corn of, was that the Children of Corn, or whatever the freaky movie is back in the 80s and 90s. And then all of a sudden, you hit this one or two per people that are standing out there, letting people in, and you don't even see nothing. Like, right now, you still see like cornfields or a field, whatever it was, in woods. That's all you see. And you're like, what? Where am I going? Like, what is going on? Then all of a sudden, once you get into the wood line, they have this whole dirt track, and you had your Kyle Larsons, your Casey Canes, and you had some of the top stars in NASCAR out there. Like, I had Casey Kane. I don't know if you know who Casey Kane is, but NASCAR fans know who Casey Kane is. Like, literally sitting in front of me watching this, and Kyle Larson's out there, and there's a whole bunch of other drivers out there and people that are involved with this. I got 2 years. For 2 years, I got to go to Chip Ganassi. That's where Kyle Larson originally went to when he came into NASCAR. Chip Ganassi has gotten out of NASCAR. He's always been involved with Indy as well. That's where he stayed at now. 2 personal events out there. I got to see some artists. I got to hang out with the drivers. It was a big to do. I don't know if you remember when Tennessee and Virginia Tech put the football field in the middle of the Bristol Motor Speedway and played football. I got to be there for that. I was right there, like Michael Vick and Peyton Manning standing there right next to me before they went out in the middle of the field. I was at the end zone in the grandstands right there. It was like one of the coolest events I've ever gotten to go to. I've been at NHRA events. I've been to different baseball events. Like, brag about it, talk about it, enjoy it, because it is an experience you'll never get to do again.
Oh, yeah.
It's having the opportunity to have access to athletes, people behind the scenes, marketing, even the relationships that I've built with other media outlets, if it was local, little ones like we were, or are the most valuable pieces of information or the most valuable relationships you can build, especially what we're doing, because a lot of those will help you. They will give you pointers. They will tell you things you can do, not do, what they've done, not done, even with being with the big companies. Like, it is some of the most, and just being behind the scenes, like you're talking about being able to be there. You get there early. You get to be behind the scenes. You get access to things and people that people don't get. And so I know you feel like you're bragging at times, and it feels kind of like you're coming off a certain way. I'm going to tell you right now, Mario, get over that, enjoy it, embrace it. If people hate on it, they hate on it. They're going to hate on things anyway. Hell, they hate on the fact that Taylor Swift sits in the damn presser, or the whatever box they sit in. So they're going to hate regardless. But don't ever feel that you're bragging about it, because you need to be bragging about it, because not everybody gets to do that.
Oh yeah. I want to say it fell through, but like slipped through. But I did a lot of emailing and a lot of videos, a lot of video tagging, a lot of flyer work. But I actually paid off. So you want to let me come? Go ahead.
There's a lot. If you put the work in, especially being. And Mario kind of has a little bit of a leg up other than maybe some other people in, say, the 110, because he also does a show on 104.5 in Fayetteville, the recap. He's on there. So he gets a kind of a double whammy. Not only, you got this, you can put that on there that, I'm doing this to help, but especially those Carolina games that you're going to, we're going to be talking about that on, a big radio station in Fayetteville. So that, that just like me, it helps, me more than some of these other people with the 110, because, I co-host this show, and then, I write the blogs, and, I produce this show, and so I kind of get multi, kind of points towards why they should pick us to do these things. But doing this and being part of this company, as long as you do the legwork, I had the rest of the team ask me, Miss Lee, she had gone done the races in Mid-Ohio. The Mid-Ohio is called Mid-Ohio. The name of the race is the road course. She's gotten to go a handful of years doing that. It's like, I've gone to, I never did a Mid-Ohio. I don't know why I never did Mid-Ohio since I've been back. But, I've been to Kentucky. I've been to Martinsville, Bristol, Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Homestead. It seems like there's a track or two that I'm still missing just on the race side, those tracks. I went to Miami, Homestead the year I was approved, and that was a whole different process as the rest of them. For those listening that are, thinking about doing different things, different, even in the same sport, different teams, different tracks, different whatever, also have different ways of how they handle media. There's a handful of tracks. All I got to do is go to one site. SMI is the one that owns all those tracks, and I just check the things I want. They approve or don't approve. And then like Miami Homestead, you actually got to go to their website. You actually got to fill out the paperwork. You actually got to either send an email or actually mail it. I can't remember. It's been a while. The year I went to Miami Homestead was the year Jeff Gordon retired. That was a hell of a time to be able to sit there and, not only go to the Miami racetrack that I've never been to before, but then after the race, I got to hang out for like an hour after. They fed us all. I think they had either Jimmy John's or pizza. We got to hang out with Jeff Gordon, listen to him, talk after his final race. The next year I was actually supposed to go when Tony Stewart retired. I just didn't make it. The opportunities, like I do not like Dale Jr. I love his podcast. For any of those that are NASCAR fans, that's a great podcast to listen to. But I was there when he won for the first time in Martinsville, and for those that don't know, when you win at Martinsville, you win the grandfather clock, and that's a big deal to these drivers, especially someone like him whose father has grandfather clock. He grew up seeing these nice big grandfather clocks in your house. You want one. Didn't care for him as a person or a driver, just my personal preference, but in the media center after that race, that was probably the funnest time I ever had in the media center. Like, you laughed the entire time. It was fun the entire time. Got an opportunity when I went to Kentucky Bubba Wallace. I poke a lot at the where I don't agree with how he did things and the whole stuff that went on in NASCAR with Bubba Wallace, but he was one of the first actual top stars that gave me the time of day. Sat there, had set up an interview. I got to sit there. He gave me 20 minutes. He would have gave me longer than that. Called me on his personal cell phone, and I sat there at the Kentucky Motor Speedway parking lot. Budget was tight, so the races with media said, with being part of the media don't cost me anything, but everything else does, and I didn't have money like that, so I would literally, all the money I'd had would go in gas, and I had to make sure I had money to make sure I could eat and drink, and I'd slept in my car the entire weekend, take a little bird baths as best as I could.
Yeah.
And you know, that sometimes when you're on a budget, that's it, especially when you're trying to build things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I will never. It ultimately was the end of my relationship with my son's mother. You know her. I actually just had this conversation last week with somebody because the girl that actually showed me about the media center, she felt that there was a relationship there, especially after when we went to Atlanta, we had to share a hotel together, and just wouldn't believe that I would share a hotel with a female and not. I was talking to one of my employees earlier this week, and I was saying, you know, the funny thing is, something happened to Miss Brandy's daughter, and she was up in the hospital, and I felt bad, and it was kind of a hug kind of consulting thing when she was at my job, and we actually did like the side-to-side, pat each other on the back kind of tap, 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 that. And that was the most awkward thing. So I couldn't even imagine. That night at the hotel, like we both fell asleep with the laptop. I think I was laying there with the laptop on my stomach. I think she laid on her bed with the laptop on her side. We was working on 110 stuff. It was a long, exhausting day. We drove all the way from, you know, North Carolina to Atlanta, and we passed out. So that was like one of the few times we actually got hotels. The rest of the time we just slept in cars. But anyway, back to my original thing. One, I don't care what people think about bragging. You can talk about it all you want on the show. I don't feel it's bragging. But those that are listening that ever thought about being part of this, you know, doing these kind of things, one, I'm going to take an opportunity to kind of plug real quick before we change topics. If you're looking to join, you say you got a podcast, you want to join the network, we always got room. We got two more days of the week right now that you can actually do your show on our network. Or if you already do a show on the network, you want to syndicate it on our network, we do that as well. Our shows are broadcast here on Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, and they get syndicated on iHeart, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Podchasers, you name it. I can go down the long list. All you got to do is go to www.the110nationsportsradionetwork.com. There's a whole long list of tabs that you can find these our shows on. Or if you don't have a show already and you want to do a show, we can always put you on our network, just like we did for the Sunday night show. We brought them onto our network, and they are doing their show on there to grow their fan base, to help us grow our fan base, and hopefully grow this thing into something that this is what we do. But anyway, any other plans in the immediate future of media that you're trying to get into? Like, you already got the next one you're working on applying for?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna work on something. You know, this is you know, I wouldn't say this is new. This is new for me. You get what I'm saying as far as the podcast, the radio station, but I got to give you credit just because this kind of helped me. You know what I mean? It kind of helped me groom up a little bit as far as just talking, pausing, you know what I mean? You know, bullets and all that type of good stuff. But this is something that I actually want to keep going and doing. You understand what I'm saying? I love going through a free college game or a free professional game. And sit there and watch the game.
Once you get that first approval, you want to do more. You want another one.
I already done. Like you said, the NCAA. I'm doing as many as possible.
And And not only do you want to do another one and do another one, you want to, what can I do even more? Like, what can I top this experience? Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's like, okay, I did a race. How can I top that? What can I?
Yeah.
Okay, now I did it. Now I, you know, it's like when I went to the NHRA thing in Charlotte. You know, at that point in time, we had, I don't know how well you keep up with NHRA, but we had Erica Enders. At that time, she was a 2-time champion. I think she's won more championships since then. Great. She was a great listener of the show. She came on. I probably had her on the show 5 or 6 times. But when I went to the event, you know, for anything I wanted, all I do is just basically wave at her. You know, look, you know, you want to come talk to me, you want to meet the crew, whatever the case may be. But it's like, how do you top that? Okay, now I get to go to the Hall of Fame in NASCAR. How do I top that? Oh, I get to interview drivers. Now, how am I going to top that? Oh, I'm going to go to a football game in the middle of a racetrack. Let's see how I can top. Like, it's 2 different addictions. One is how many more times can I do this? I thought about this earlier today because I need to get on my other computer because I have it saved where I can start applying since the race season is getting ready to kick off and see what I can apply. The tracks that are close enough to me where with NASCAR that I've already gotten the system and then work the rest of them. But the addiction becomes what all can I go do and how can I top the biggest event that I've done so far. Yeah. Like, what can I do to get, you know, so it's definitely
like the UNC, it's kind of like just like every other press that goes up there. I get a chance to go in there 90 minutes before and after the game. I get to ask, you know, post before and after questions. So it's definitely gonna be cool. You know what I mean? So I'm ready to see how this network going, because when I go in there, I'm be real focused on, you know what I mean, trying to knock out certain things and get some things accomplished within them 4 hours of being there. You know, as far as networking, some good content, some interviews, some good questions. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely going in there. I'm definitely going in there with a plan for sure.
And that was one of the great things about living in North Carolina, especially at first when we was getting approved for all the NASCAR races, because you were like right there. Like, it was nothing for me to drive to Charlotte. You know, Charlotte was my most frequently visited track. Just because of location. It's like an hour and a half or so drive. I only did it once as media, and I actually got approved through NASCAR. I actually worked with NASCAR at that particular event. As a matter of fact, I think I might have done them twice. I know definitely once, and I got to interview David Reagan and R.J. Mitty from Breaking Bad. Which, like I said, it was just, you were trying to find that drug, that addiction, that how do I beat the last thing I did? Well, hell, now I get to interview a race car driver and a TV actor. Like, you know, you kept that's where I was at. And I get to write an article that went on NASCAR.com on top of that. You know, so that was great about being in North Carolina. It wasn't that far from Charlotte. Bristol's not that far of a drive. I mean, Atlanta's a nice little hop and skip, but not that far. Martinsville wasn't that far. I kicked myself in the butt for never going to Darlington. Even as a fan, I wish I would have went to Darlington. Rockingham wasn't open, but for 2 years, and that was before we did the media stuff. I did take advantage and went to it one of the years they had reopened. I know they're working on trying to redo that. Of course, they reopened North Wilkesboro, which I wish, even just on the fan side, it would have been open when I lived in North Carolina. Then you talk sports-wise, you got the Panthers that are right there, obviously in Charlotte as well. Atlanta, the Falcons, not too far. It's almost, I think, just as far to go to Atlanta as to go see the Commanders. You know, you're kind of centrally, and it's not that far down to go to Florida. So as a NASCAR fan, you know, it was actually quicker to drive to Daytona to go to the 500 than it was to come back to see the family in Ohio. Then, of course, you got the baseball teams, the football teams in Florida. That's not that far. Like, that was one of the great things, especially doing media-wise, that made North Carolina so appealing. And one of the reasons, like, I didn't really pursue, even if I wanted to move back, it wasn't something I really pursued or really paid a lot of attention to, especially when we was like really elbows deep doing the 110 stuff, because you had so much accessibility. And we were very NASCAR heavy at first, so especially the NASCAR world, but in all aspects. Versus here, like, yeah, it's not too far of a drive to Indianapolis, and I'd love, and I'm gonna work on maybe trying to see if I get in there this year. Kentucky, they done shut down, so Michigan is nice. It's like almost like driving to Atlanta to the Michigan track from here, but I don't have the same accessibilities to, you know, all the different events. It's more spread out versus it seemed like everything was right there in North Carolina. So I do miss that aspect, especially the NASCAR side of all that. But yeah, I don't know. It's if you're out there listening, I'm telling you what. You put the work and hustle in, come join us, and there's a lot of things you can do. It's all based on how much you want to do. The guys, like I said, the guys asked me after I sat there, because as soon as you send me the screenshots of getting approved, I send it to the guys. I'm like, look, this is what's going on. You know, I try to keep everybody in the loop, because some of these people have been with me. Miss Lee's, I separated in 2013, September. So me and Miss Lee came on board, I would say, January of 2014. She was really the only person in my life that me and Miss Lee didn't know each other that well. She just kind of ran the chat room. I don't know how she fell into the chat room. We had it on a different platform, and she kind of ran the chat room, and everybody, like, we was on a whole different platform. You could have up to 4 people on the screen. It was actually we actually did it live where you see each other, and then there was a whole chat room, and we were there. There would be hundreds of people in the chat. It was crazy, and so she kind of moderated that. And then when the separation happened, I took time off from October till January, and she constantly checked in. And me and Miss Lee have been together ever since then. So early 2014. Chris came in a year or two after that, so he's been around probably since 15 or 16. And then Craig came in a year or two after that, so I'd say either 17 or 18. And then Taz came in a couple of years after that. And then, of course, you've been here for a couple of years as well now at this point. And then we just added Adam and TJ, the Sunday night show. Now, we've had a couple other people in between, and they were with us for a while. Izzo was with us for a few years. He ended up passing diabetes or being a diabetic, ended up, unfortunately, taking his health and life. Stats, Mike Perricone, he was with us a handful of years, was in a wheelchair. Cancer ended up taking him. Racing with Big Sweat, he was with us for a few years. He just did a show on our network. For those that don't know who Racing with the show Racing with Big Sweat, or Steve Billmeyer, he actually helped make the movie Days of Thunder. He actually was the crew chief for Tim Richmond. For those that are old NASCAR fans, put Jeff Gordon actually in his first race car. And a few other drivers. Like he was a pretty big deal for us and a pretty big deal in the racing world. His health ended up getting the best of him as well. He was older. So yeah, but every time you get approved, I shoot over, and so they've been asking more and more questions. Miss Lee's been approved, and so I've been trying to look, you know. All you gotta do is do the research. Mario is a prime example.
Oh yeah.
All you gotta do is
That night, you know, not trying to go off topic, right? It was kind of like I watched somebody else do it, you know, at the radio station at 104.5, and then I wanted to do it, but I didn't get no help. You know what I mean, from anybody. So I had to dig, I had to research. I took clips of, you know, online of what to say to people in emails and just put my information in there. You know, so I definitely did a lot of digging as far as the telephone numbers, who to email, because I was just emailing people. I was emailing people that, you know, I looked up the media and content relationships of each school. You know what I mean? They have telephone numbers and email addresses, and I just start emailing. And then I happen to email AD at UNC and talk to him. He didn't do it, but he knows the people who give out credentials to a game. And word of mouth got, he gave me a reference. He got in contact with the person that I needed to get in contact with, and he reached back out to me. Then I built a relationship with him, and then it kind of went from there.
Yeah,
but this definitely it won't be my last for sure. It won't be my last UNC game for sure.
Izzo was a big NHL guy. Izzo knew the NHL like nobody knew any sport that I ever met in my life, and I felt like I knew NASCAR and NFL pretty good, like his knowledge of NHL. But I got him actually approved, like you got approved the Carolina Hurricanes. And then we also got approved, I think it was on a game-to-game basis. I don't remember. It was a Bobcats still at that point in time where they switched back to the Hornets. It just never happened. I will do this when it opens up where I actually can apply in the SMI. I have an account. I will add you to that and see if we can get you approved and to do a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
I'm down.
That's definitely an experience, and things you get to see, and being part of that media center and everything else, being in the garage area and all that. I'll get you in there, especially with being able to put you in for the 110 Nation and add the fact that you do the radio show on one of their stations that is not too far from them. That should make life easier for you on that aspect to get in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Got about 15 more minutes before we mosey our way out of here. Any topics that we've not jumped into that is an interest for you tonight? I know you usually have a topic too.
Not right now. You know what I mean? Today, of course, we got the Tobacco Road rivalry this week. Even though Carolina lost last night at Georgia Tech after a 10-game winning streak and 9-0 in an ACC. You know what I mean? Right before the Duke game Saturday. So that's
How
on the way.
How are you feeling about your UNC Duke matchup? How is Duke even playing? I ain't kept up with.
They're number 7. They just got done playing, I think, Virginia Tech. I think Virginia, and they got off real good from the 3-point line. After losing to Pittsburgh a couple games before, but they on a little shooting streak right now. They got 2 games. They got 2 games they just won after losing, but They come home. They're coming to North Carolina, so hopefully, to the Dean Center, so hopefully they can do something. But they're kind of up on us right now because last year we didn't have a good year, so I think, they're 2 wins up on us just from last year, and that's real bad around these parts, When you talk about just UNC and Duke, But hopefully we get to see. Hopefully they come out shooting.
It's I don't know, it's just weird. Like, I know that's a big rivalry. I've lived it. I've worked in Chapel Hill. I have bounced in Chapel Hill. I've been in the club scene, everything in Chapel Hill. And hell, like I said in last week's show, one of the years we even fed the Duke teams. I worked for a company that worked in Durham, right across the road from Duke University. I don't know if it's because it's basketball. I don't know if it's because it's a different fan base. And what I mean by that, Ohio State, Michigan, one football versus basketball. I don't know the physicality difference. Or it's just because, I don't know, when I think of UNC and Duke, I think more of your doctors and more of your preppy the higher class, not that you don't get that from Ohio State, Michigan, but that's not what I visualize. Like, I know what it's like in Chapel Hill. I know what the houses look like. I know what the status of a lot of those people are, and the same thing with Duke and the money that's spent. The rivalry is not as intense for one of the biggest rivalries in basketball, and then being 10 miles apart. I always expected it to be like Ohio and Michigan hate each other. Like, I think that's been voted like the biggest rivalry of all sports is the Ohio-Michigan rivalry. It's definitely in college football, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like considered the biggest in all sports. And, like, it's pure, like, dudes would be ready to throw down, like, legitimate throwdown when it comes to, like, I've seen, some preppy boys in Chapel Hill in their flannel long sleeve shirts and their khaki shorts and their little flip flops and, oh man, your team's bad, those kind of, but nothing like, I don't know, I just don't see. it used to upset me, like, and it still kind of upsets me, like, like, I want to see what I see at Ohio State, Michigan. I always wanted to see, especially when I worked in Chapel Hill, like, y'all want to kill each other, like, let's do this, like. But y'all play too nice with your rivalry. Like, we take it to, I don't know, we just take it too personal or what. So, I don't know. But definitely excited for you this weekend. Hopefully UNC wins for your sake. I don't have a dog in the fight. I really don't care about anything. There at one point in time, I used to have an NC State hat just so I stayed out in the middle of all that. Lord. Let's go ahead and get things wrapped up. Why don't you go ahead and let them know, where they can find you. They can find the Carolina Sports Plus. Let them know where they can catch you, those that live in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, when and where they can find you on the radio, websites, Facebook sites, anything you want to throw out there, all the norms, and we get things wrapped up for this week.
Okay. You can follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Carolina Sports Plus. You can buy merchandise at CarolinaSportsPlus.com. We got a lot of great things on the site. You can catch us in the streets if you're in Lumberton. The mobile store that we're currently working on will be ready when it's time to go out there to Lumberton, Rumble on the Lumber. That's March 1st and 2nd. You can catch us on 104.5 on Tuesday around 5 or 6 o'clock p.m. But there's a couple of things that we got going on, so please most definitely check out Carolina Sports Plus.
Don't forget, make sure, you guys check us out at www.the110nationsportsradionetwork.com. It has all our road schedules. It has some older blogs I've not done in any while, something I need to get back in the swing of things once work comes down here. It gives you links to all the different platforms that our shows are on, so you can catch it on Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Podchasers, the list goes on and on. It's just easier to point everybody in that direction. You can click on the tab. Just make sure when you get over there, you follow us on whatever platform you choose. That way we continue to grow. As we continue to grow, I want to welcome again the closers. You guys can catch them Sunday nights, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. You guys get in the studio. They recap the sports of the week, hit you on all the big topics. Great show, great flow. Loved what I heard Sunday. Looking forward to next Sunday's show as well. Tuesday nights, Race Chat Live hit the airwaves again for 2024 yesterday. They are back this season. I'm looking forward to catching the replay myself over the next day or two. Now that my audit's over with, things kind of get to calm down a little bit for me. And then looking forward to the return of Safety to Success, local racetrack show, talking about safety, talks to different drivers, vendors, and stuff like that. He'll be coming back here in about a month, so looking forward to that as well. Don't forget, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. I will be working on videos. There's a lot of different things that we did last year that I'm going to start rolling out again this year, especially with the weather as it changed. Seems like it's rained for like 2 weeks straight, so it's like you can't hardly do anything outside. So there ain't a lot of video stuff going on. I will be working on breaking down shows and making short clips throughout the rest of this week. Probably starting Friday. That'll give me a chance to get time-stamped all the segments of the Race Chat Live, and I'll start knocking them all out. The family's doing karaoke. They do karaoke the first Friday of the month. I probably, at this point, told them I'm skipping out. I just want to go home and get some rest. So I have no intentions of going. My intention is to come home and start working on some videos and then working on them all the weekend. So make sure you guys subscribe to that. If you're interested in joining the 110 Nation, all you got to do is hit me at MrCJSports@gmail.com. And just send me an email. Either you got a show you want to syndicate it on our network, or if you just want to do a show on our network, always looking forward to expand. The ultimate goal is to have shows every day of the week, and, this is what we do. I got to thank Carolina Sports Plus. Got to thank the staff, the crew, the listeners, everybody that has made this possible. April 15th, we turned 13, so we've been doing it for a hot minute. It's not there. I've made a lot of mistakes. We've learned a lot over the years, and we've got to do a lot of great things, and looking forward to a lot more great things. I'm the same way with Mario. We're nowhere close to being done. Even though we're 11 years into this, 11 years into this, 12 years, 13 years. I'm losing track. We're only getting started. There's a lot still to do and a lot to experience. So I think I got everything there, Mario. Don't forget, next week we'll be back here 8 o'clock in the studio. Unless you can think of anything else, we're going to get out of here.
Yeah. See you next week.
See you next week.